Hello, hello. Now, y'all know what this is based on basically seeing the title. So, yeah, this is What If Naruto. This is basically What If Naruto basically gained his own fighting style. Now, how this fighting style will be created is simple. Everything pretty much leading up to pretty much everything goes the same leading up to his 4th birthday. Konohagakure Street. Naruto was backed into a corner as he was in a weakened state as he something was telling him to murder them all. He felt a sense of hatred and anger just bulging out of his body. He felt it. He didn't know what it was, but he wanted to kill them. But it was his more, more, more kinder side which was holding him back. But his kinder side was being heavily suppressed because of the current situation. Plus, everyone within this crowd had either hurt him multiple times or rejected him, or they just completely neglected his existence. It pissed him off. It infuriated him. He wanted to be known. He wanted to be a respected person, but they never cared. All they wanted all they wanted to do was just to hurt him. Because of the fact that the third Hokage tossed him out at the age of 3, he had to grow in intelligence quickly. As a matter of fact, his intelligence level was reminiscent of Shikimaru, of getting Shikimaru, which is extremely high, as he didn't know what to do. His anger was bulging out of his body as he felt an intense anger. He felt infuriated. He looked on at the people. Then his eyes began to change. As then his hair turned a shade of orange, which was just a little bit darker. And by the way, his hair is going to be a shade of orange instead of a shade of basically yellow, which was had within the original. Since this, I want this to be more logical because yellow and red probably equals orange. I just don't know. But yeah, since yellow and red most likely equals orange, and he's also gonna have a lot more chakra than like within this what if. So yeah, he basically has around close to 3 tails level chakra. So it's extremely high. Which was an average for the Uzumaki clan members was pretty much at the age of 6, I mind you, was at least around the 7 tails in terms of chakra, which it was extremely large. I'm just gonna be saying that because the Uzumaki clan, it's just almost as if they don't care about the Uzumaki clan. And the only reason why the Senju clan was like really famous was because of pretty much Hashirama, and that was all. So yeah, Naruto then glowed with fury as his arms then began, as his clothes near his arms began to buckle back. His eyes began to turn a shade of purple with a split mark within one of his eyes, and then within the other, the kanji for 9. This was a genetic, basically genetic defect. Since he was born with the nine, he was born with pretty much half of the nine tails chakra, with the nine tails chakra pulsing through him. So he is not gonna have normal chakra. By the way, his chakra is gonna be reminiscent between human and Biju, just more closer towards the Biju though. His eyes began to glitter as his power began to grow. His hand and his clothes began to, his arms, the clothes on his arms or his sleeves began to buckle back as lightning began to surround his hand. He then rushed towards his enemy, furiously tearing through them like paper. Within a mere 25 minutes, the seemingly never-ending army of villagers were completely wiped out, with one person in the stead. Within this um within this basically endeavor of killing all of the villagers, his mentality is basically gonna be sort of like Thorfinn's from basically the series Valkyrie's Sled, and I don't know if it's Sled, I don't remember, but it's really good. So y'all should just check that out. But he's gonna have more of an angered, like he's basically beginning Thorfinn as he slaughtered a man. He began to change as then he began to rush off into the grand forest, which is known only by one name, the Forest of Death. In the home of Kushina Uzumaki. Because of her overwhelming chakra, the beasts within the forest began to grow to unimaginable proportions. Just her being there made the animals prosper and the forest grow larger. And it also helped that this was also the grave site of the Sage of Six Paths, which had withered away due to time. But his chakra had gave power to the overgrowth of the forest. Yeah, the overgrowth of the forest. Naruto's PFA. We see Naruto slamming his hand through 13 stones. As the stones began to slightly crack, the ones in the front began to turn into dust, and the ones further towards the back turned into big shards of rock, but in the middle, pebbles. This was his level of strength. Naruto wanted to turn all of these into pebbles. So, he was training on his strength without his bolt style technique, because of his unknown guidance by the Nine Tails through basically thoughts being transferred through sleep. He had learned how to fully enhance his taijutsu style. And at this point, he was around the age of 12 years old. So yeah, I'm not gonna make him that OP at the age of like fucking 8. And then once he hits the age of 12 years old, he's just gonna be able to kill pain and bull crap like that. But yeah, the intensity, his lightning style, which is similar towards the Shindori, is simple. Within his hand is lightning, which courses at a speed high enough with enough heat to incinerate an entire army, with the outside being just enough to shock a man, and stop his heart. So basically, he could quickly switch through the levels on impact. So he stops his heart quickly and incinerates his body, which is an overwhelmingly OP technique. Because of this fact, the Forest of Death has also been growing. Has the animals within the Forest of Death and basically everything began to grow noticeably larger. As Anko, on Monday, while Anko was within the Forest of Death, she encountered a snake the size of basically Orochimaru's. What Orochimaru's do was called his snake, and almost it had almost 1.5%, like almost 1.5% of its power, which was incredible, I mind you. And there were a lot of them. And also, within the forest, Naruto has been spotted by multiple people. And he is called the Grand Forest Deity, or Akuma no Sato. I do not know what Sato means, but I do know that Akuma means devil. So, yeah. If anyone knows how to say devil of the forest, please comment that down below into the comment section. Thank y'all, and grateful. And he's basically renowned as basically many different names because of his overwhelming speed, people didn't notice how basically how wild his technique is. So because of that, they can't tell whether his technique is elegant or very wild, and they just assumed it to be elegant. So yeah. So that's the reason why he's called either the great demon of the forest, or the great deity of the forest. And ever since the great deity's appearance, the forest had flourished to an unbelievable amount. So yeah, we see Naruto Uzumaki walking as he's about to leave the forest, as 13 snakes the size of the snake boss roll up on him. Then they began to speak within snake tongue. But at this point, Naruto can understand the snakes. Lord Akuma, the snake said one of the snakes said while looking towards Naruto. Where are you going? I have to leave this village. It hasn't brought me nothing but pain. As a matter of fact, he said, while creating a massive lightning barrier on the south entrance of the forest. 13 Chunin were about to investigate the forest, as then one of them ran into the field, as they then got shot to death, as they didn't know they instantly withered away. Akuma no Sato must be in a bad mood for the interests of the force just to murder people. What's going on? A man said, as then he proceeded to to walk around the forest as the whole entire force did so, following him, as they didn't try to enter from that way, as the man was incinerated. So it's correct. There's no, he threw a kunai over there, and the kunai was incinerated. I was correct. Akuma no Sato. Must must be in a bad mood. Let's go, he said, as then he turned, as then the rest of the people then said, then pointed towards the area, as they then got back, shook at what they saw. They saw a gigantic version of basically a lightning beast emerging around the forest, emerging out of the forest, as inside of it was the chakra of all of the living things, of all of the plants there, along with millions, no, hundreds of, no, I'd say around 20,000 different animals, with them all ranging within the level of 1,000 of them. Then the trees began to shrink, and the forest began to get small. The forest, the eerie sense of danger that came from the forest disappeared, as then the lightning beast began to walk off. Once he stepped, nothing that he stepped on was destroyed. It was almost as if a gigantic image. Ichiraku ramen shop. A man bust through the ramen door. "We're all gonna die!" he yelled out. As then Ichiraku then said, "What's happening? Amy, go to the bunker." As then Amy was then rushed into the bunker. As then everyone felt a light zap. As then it disappeared. And the man then looked outside to see that the lightning beast was outside of Konoha's barrier. The third Hokage's office. What the? Lord Hokage! There's some type of beast! What's going on? The third Hokage said. As in, he said, "Outside, Lord Hokage." And then the third Hokage then looked outside as he was shook. A lightning beast that had basically lightning wings, which is the reason why they considered it to be a beast, was walking away from the village. The beast then, at top speed, disappeared as the wind, a massive gust of wind blew into the leaf village, and it was gone after that. So everyone continued their daily life And the force is deaf. It sprung. The third Hokage then looked puzzled. Near the Valley of the End, a section of the trees began to grow largely to unimaginable proportions compared to the others, and beasts began to populate the area, and a gate suddenly appeared around it. "This is our base of operations," Naruto said, as he then looked out a window. As then the snake, which pretty much all animals within Naruto's forest had evolved to the level of knowledge basically to use ninjutsu, since they are so high on chakra they don't use it. So they have basically transformed into human-like versions of themselves. "Lord Akuma, what shall we do now?" "I'll just train the days off," he said. But he said, "But never mind. I think I want to test something out," he said, as then he got out the office. Then lightning wings began to sprout out of his back. Then he floated towards the air. No, he flapped his wings towards the air. And this is something similar towards Lucifer's wings. If you haven't watched Lucifer on Netflix, I recommend that you watch it right the fuck now, because you're an uncultured swine who's fucking gay. That doesn't go for everyone who is under the age of fucking 13 or some bullcrap like that. Yeah, pretty much it goes for everyone who isn't the age of 13 or some bullcrap like that. No. Even at that point, you should have watched the show. So yeah, as he then flew into the air, as he looked down, he saw it, a neighboring village. Although it was far away, he still saw it. So he flapped his wings towards it. Around 2 minutes later, at the village. At the village. Settlement. Because a village, they consider great nations. But the Rain Village is considered a village, so, and it's really, really big. So this is going to be called the settlement. At the settlement, everyone looked up to see a man with lightning wings flapping. Is that God?" A man said, as then another covered his mouth. "What are you doing? If that is God, then why would you want to provoke it by saying his name? Are you stupid?" he said while slapping the man's head, as then the man began to bow. As then Naruto's voice boomed with the help of chakra-enhanced lungs. "Hello, neighboring village," the voice said, as then everyone covered their ears. Their ears began to ring with noise. "I have moved in near this forest. So, I am here to let you all know I am the great Akuma of the forest. Near yonder." As everyone looked towards him, "That's not God, it's an akuma. The man, a man said. He just said he was an akuma. Another man said. Going near my village without the help. Going near my village. No, going near my forest. Hoping to pick berries from my luscious grounds will be a direct violation of this new alliance that hereby now it has been created. And the other villager looked up, saying, just gonna make us sign an alliance? No, of course not. Even though I am a god, I do not plan to treat you puny humans like play toys. I merely wish for your village to gain me benefits, such as a simple sacrifice. You want us to kill people to satisfy your hunger? You're crazy, a man said. I do not mean a human sacrifice. I want any animal that you may have. Drop it off near my forest, and I will permit you entrance. Animal? Do you want it dead or alive? Alive! I would prefer it, Naruto said. Since I do hold a great respect to animals. As then, from the sky, a hawk 3 times the size of Naruto flew. As then, the hawk arrived, coming down towards the ground. In exchange for your animals, I offer you protection, food from my forest, and the final thing that will most likely get you interested. The ability to control chakra, Naruto said. As then, they all looked up. As then, a man walked out from the shadows. Who are you? The man said as he was clutching hard onto his blade. Ah, a mere human with a blade. I am the almighty Akuma. Then, the man said, I am Raymond of the lightning Kenjutsu style. And this is my buddy, Zabuzamomochi of the executioner's blade. Ah, you'll be good. Good people to join my village, to join my forest. And behind him, the Raymond said, this is Haku. She's an ice user with the greatest abilities. Naruto then began to laugh. Oh, really? I'll show you something. As then, since it is native to the Uzumaki clan, wind and water style is said to be the most common for Uzumaki. Naruto then pointed his hands down towards the ground, well, towards a nearby boulder. Then wind and water chakra natures began to pulse into his hand, creating spike, as then it shot out, hitting the boulder, exploding on impact, destroying it. Do you really believe that your ice style can ever match that? Then Haku looked up. She felt inferior, but she knew that if she required help, she had one S rank ninja and another bordering S rank level, which was pretty good. And plus her herself, an S rank shinobi. Well, not really shinobi, since she was never declared one, but she has S rank skills. As it was stated within the original by Zabuza himself, Haku is stronger than him. And if you find that in any way stupid, shape, or form, fuck you. Then, so Naruto then floated down. Ah! This will be fun to have a duel, he said, while cracking his, while basically rotating his shoulder. Then he disappeared, kicking Raymond in the stomach, sending him flying across the ground, gliding almost, as he then hit the ground, rolling over continuously. Then Zabuza disappeared as mist began to appear everywhere. Then he slung down his blade. Then Naruto yelled out, "Hellish Vortex! No, Hellish Brainstorm!" As then lightning began to zap into Zabuza's brain, as it began to constantly zap, causing him headaches as he then fell towards the ground, as this was similar towards the level of a migraine. And if y'all know how a migraine feel, I went to the hospital for having a migraine. I literally went to the hospital for having a migraine. It was my first migraine. Like, not really my first, but it was the worst of them all. So my head was hurting, my head was banging, I was just moving all about, and it just really, really hurt. You shouldn't see me that day. And my cousin, he had broke his arm, so he was with me. He was with me too. So yeah. So basically, he then fell towards the ground, holding on to his head, as he then began to bang his head on the floor. Naruto then stopped him, as he then picked him up and slammed him down. Then he disappeared, as he then slightly kicked Haku's leg, sending her falling towards the ground. As for you, since you are my future bride, I'll go easy on you. Then Haku face began to completely turn red in anger. I've devoted myself to Lord Raymond, she said. He is my only true love. Since I'm gonna say within this, what if Zabuza has a more father and daughter bond with Haku? Yeah, father and daughter bond with Haku. So basically, he's not gonna be doing that weird shit. Naruto then laughed. As he then disappeared, kicking Raymond in the balls as he fell towards the ground. He was pretty sure after that kick he was never going to be able to have children, as Naruto then slung down his leg upon Raymond, as Raymond began to coughing blood furiously. Basically coughing blood furiously. He coughed up blood furiously as the blood spattered across the ground. He said while picking him up. Then he slammed his fist into his stomach, sending him flying across the ground, similar towards what just happened as he rolled across the ground, continuously flying because of the massive amount of momentum. As he was within his sixth roll, Naruto appeared behind him, bringing up his leg. Then he brought it down furiously. As he slammed his leg into his stomach, he began to cough. No, into his back, he began to cough up blood furiously. He knew at this point, he didn't know which amount of his internal organs were destroyed, but he knew that his organs were destroyed at this point. There was no turning back. He knew the only thing he could do was it. She then got up and jumped back as quickly as possible to evade any possible incoming attacks from Naruto. Naruto then looked at him. Oh, and what are you going to do now, little boy? Raven then yelled out, "Lightning Furious Armor!" As he began to breathe heavily as the lightning crackled around himself. "You mortals never learn," Naruto said. As then his wings began to recede into his back. As these were made out of lightning, but he wanted to keep his image as a deity, otherwise he couldn't get any respect. So his hands began to turn into lightning. Seemingly with so much concentration of lightning, Naruto yelled out, "This'll be a finisher!" As Raymond then rushed towards him, Naruto then disappeared. As he was about to slam his hand into his gut, a person appeared in front of him. His body began to crumble into ashes. Well, he exploded into smoke. He exploded into lightning. This was a lightning clone of Raymond. As Raymond began to breathe in heavily. Damn, I saw death in front of me at that moment. He thought to himself. But then his lightning armor began to get stronger as he yelled out, "This is for my love. This is for my eternal rival. And this is for us all. And for my life." As then his lightning armor began to bulge out furiously until it had the density of 13 Susanos. As he breathed in heavily, he knew that this technique would almost kill him. But it was a trade-off. All you have to do was just rest up for a couple of weeks. He'd be good. He'd be fine and dandy. So he was okay with it. But it caused him a lot of pain. "Lightning smash!" he yelled out, using the smoke from the incinerated water, from the evaporating water. As he popped through the smoke, he saw Naruto's face. It was grim. As then he stopped his hand with one. He stopped his punch with one hand, grabbing onto his wrist as he began to crush it with maximum strength, as this was 100%. As the lightning armor disappeared, his wrist began to hurt to the point where his hand was turning purple. He needed to get blood running through his hand, otherwise he'd have to amputate. Naruto then finally unleashed, allowing the blood to flow freely, turning his hand back to its regular color. This was fun, Naruto said, but I'll have to kill you. And then he pulled back his fist, sending it towards Sebas from Overlord, and he launched it forward. Water style. Grand Water Dragon! A voice yelled, as then, from the side, began pushing a force which was just powerful enough to turn his fist off course, unleashing a massive amount of energy within to the foresty area that was behind this fighting area. As the whole entire foresty area within the proximity of his fist was destroyed. Raymond looked back and saw the damage. He thought he saw the Reaper in front of him, but he never knew the true strength of the Reaper. Naruto then shook his hand. They never learn! And then he disappeared, kicking Zabuza in the stomach, making him cough out blood. As then he grabbed onto his face, slamming it down. And then he brought down his arm. His arm, similar towards, you know how they put both of their hands together and then that's when they slam it down into opponents? It was basically like that. As he slammed it into Zabuza's back, then he yelled out, "Crushing wind force!" Then the wind began to push down at an extraordinary rate as it began to crush Zabuza's basically bones. As Zabuza began to cough up more and more blood. Then Haku appeared. She tried to step in front of Naruto. The assault completely stopped. Honey, what are you doing? The battlefield is not for ladies such as yourself. Then Haku then said, Fine. I'll marry you. This is great, Naruto said, as then the assault, the massive amount of killer intent disappeared. Then a light began to shine down from the heavens. As Naruto secretly had his hand behind his back, both of his hands behind his back, running through Jutsu. This was one of his greatest ninjutsu. He could turn his hands invisible, replacing them with copies, which were not real, which could make his taijutsu style completely unpredictable. Matter of fact, he could be aiming for a completely different spot, while his opponent believed that he's aiming at the spot. But he's not. So he basically had gotten, he could get basically free shots on any person, no matter what. Unless if it's Itachi, who is a Genjutsu master, and everyone who's a Genjutsu master. Now, the heavenly, he was using his jutsu, his ninjutsu, heavenly hand to heal their body completely. But this took 30% of his chakra reserves, which would make him tired. But he was okay with it. You're welcome, wife, Naruto said, as then he then looked towards Haku. As they then began to walk, as then Naruto held Haku by the waist, which kind of made Haku pissed off, but she had to endure it. Otherwise, Zabuza and Raymond would die because of her, and she would still have to marry him. Even then, Naruto basically proceeded to finish, and then he floated them all off into the sky towards the grand forest. As Haku was approaching, she noticed that all the other trees, all the other forest areas seemed to look like ants, but there was one area which looked like a regular forest, but as she got closer and closer and closer towards it, she stared in shock. The forest was so gigantic. As a matter of fact, it was almost 30 times bigger than the rest of the surrounding area. And it was opposing the height of the Hashirama and Madara statues, which was saying something. Then, at the entrance of the basically forest, 13 people stepped out. Welcome back, Lord Akuma. And that's gonna be the end of this video.